Okay, so the Mishnah yesterday spoke about the tkiyas, how many tkiyas there are, and it said a minimum of 21 every day.
21 to 48.
Right, the minimum is 21, and it says that's a regular day, 3, 4 opening the gates, and then but the Talmud Shal Shachar, Talmud Shal Ben Rabbaim, each one had 9, and there's a Shir Shal Yom, and you divide the Shir Shal Yom into 3 stanzas. Each time you do tkiyah through a tkiyah, so that will be 9 per carbon, 9 and 9, 18, plus the first 3 is 21, and the maximum would be on Erev Shabbos of Sukkot, and it said there's another 12 that have to do with the water, the Nisach HaMayim, and it said on the upper, on top of the 15 steps, on the bottom of the 15 steps, also when you come into the Shower Mayim, I'm going to Rashi's Pshatim over here, those that argue, when you came in Shower Mayim, when you came in after you got the water, so you came in on the southern gate, so then they also did Tkiyah, Trua Tkiyah, and then Rashi says, Al-Gabi HaMizbeach means when they did Arava, they also did Tkiyah, Trua Tkiyah, as we had that Mishnah also, altogether another 12, so you'll have the regular, and you have a Musaf also, I'm sorry, the Musaf, every Musaf is another, the Musaf is another 9, so therefore you'll also have, the maximum will be 48. In between, I just missed sorry, I missed the Mishnah over there. It said,
the Musaf would be for Shabbos and for Yom Tov, right?
That's going to be a sugya. The Gemara is going to talk about that. If it comes out a Shabbos, if it comes out 2 Musaf, and that's today's sugya, if you have 2 Musaf, and is it going to be 9 per Musaf or not? That's a sugya. The Mishnah doesn't say clearly. The Mishnah says 21 every day, 9 for a Musaf, and Erev Shabbos is another 6 to separate the people from doing Malacha, and then Havdalah Ben Kodesh L'chol. When it comes Shabbos, you do another 3. Erev Shabbos says altogether 6 extra. Then it says the maximum is Erev Shabbos Shabbat Chag, but it doesn't tell you a case of 2 Musafin on the same day. There's no such Mishnah. The Mishnah doesn't talk about it. So we'll see the Gemara later on. So the Mishnah, just to sum up, the Mishnah's 48 of Erev Shabbos B'toch HaChag would be the regular 21, plus a Musaf for Sukkot. So that gives you 30. And then there's going to be, what's the Cheshbon over there? And then if it's also Erev Shabbos, another 6 is 36, plus another 12 for the Mayim, all those 3, 6, 4 extra Tkiyah, 2 Tkiyahs, Shara Elyon, and on the bottom, Shara Tachton, and then for coming in Shara Mayim, and then at the end also, it actually learns that it means the Rava, so that's another 12. So that's how you get 48. That was yesterday's Mishnah. The first thing the Gemara talks about is that the way that it counts it is 21 and 48. And it explains Tkiyah, Trua Tkiyah. That's how you get, each time is good. You'll have 3 and Tkiyah, Trua Tkiyah, it's called 3, and then again 9. But Rabbi Yehuda holds it the same thing, but instead of counting it as 21 and 48, he counts it as 7 and 16, which means that he counts it as groups of 3 as 1. A unit of Tkiyah, Trua Tkiyah is considered 1. That's what the Gemara says now. The same thing. It comes out the same thing. Instead of saying 21, he says 7. Instead of saying 48, he says 16, because he counts it Tkiyah, Trua Tkiyah as 1 unit. That's what the Gemara says. Well, the beginning of the Gemara, Masnisen, top line on the screen. Masnisen, Rabbi Yehuda, the Tanya Rabbi Yehuda, Prostate plus Bishava, most of Yosef al Sheshesrei. That the least is 7, the most is 16. So it comes out the same thing. But he counted it as a Tkiyah, Trua Tkiyah as 1 unit. So instead of saying 21, he said 7. Instead of saying 48, he said 16. But Makim, if he wasn't Machlokes, Rabbi Yehuda said Tkiyah, Trua Tkiyah Achasi, that's considered 1 unit, the Tkiyah, Trua Tkiyah. And Rabban consider it Tkiyah L'chud, Trua L'chud. So therefore they counted it as 21, they didn't count it as 7. The Gemara goes into the Machlokes, what's it based on? The Gemara is going to be Msukim, my time with Rabbi Yehuda. From where does he get that a Tkiyah, Trua Tkiyah is 1 unit? Amar Trua, Uskatem Trua. You should be Tokeya a Trua. It doesn't say you should be Meriah Trua. It says you should be Tokeya a Trua. So from there he sees that it's considered the same thing, and even though this is just talking about a Trua, but it's called it also a Tkiyah, so he sees that Tkiyah, Trua Tkiyah is all 1.
Was that the same? Because he's still going to eat 3
Yes. So far we didn't see enough Kamina, we're going to see enough Kamina. So far, Chaim Dav is asking, that's the way of counting. What's the difference? We'll see soon, bottom of the page, there might be a difference. There is a difference. Rabbanan say they're not impressed with that raya. It's not coming to say, be Tokeya a Trua. It's coming to say you should do a Tkiyah and a Trua. And that's the drasha. We learn out, whatever it says Trua, we learn out there's a Tkiyah before, a Tkiyah after. Just to point out, Rosh Hashanah is coming up. It says, Yom Trua Yeh Lachem. How do you know you do a Tkiyah? So we learn out the drasha. Whenever you have a Trua, you have a Tkiyah before, a Tkiyah after. This is one of the Psukim, Uskatim Trua. You see that when there's a Trua, there's a Tkiyah before.
Why is Trua the naming of the last name?
Okay, that's a question for, it's a question. But on the page, the one just wants to know if it's considered 1 unit or not. So if Yehuda says it's Katam Trua, shows that it's considered the same thing. Rabbanan say it's not a proof because it's just telling you to do a Tkiyah before, a Tkiyah after. It isn't calling the Trua a Tkiyah. The Gemara says, Rabbanan, So Rabbanan just explained why it's not a kasha on them, but where's their source that it is considered separate units, that the tkiya, true tkiya is not considered one? From where do you see that the tkiya, true tkiya are considered three separate blasts and not one unit? It says in the pasuk over there. It says when you Moshe Rabbeinu they made two chatzotros, Hashem told him to make two chatzotros, two trumpets, and it says when you want to call everybody to come, you should do a tkiya without a trua. When you call the Nesiim, then you do a trua. When you want to call the people, you call it tkiya. So he says, if the fact that you do a tkiya without a trua, that shows that it's not considered one unit. He's talking that tkiya trua achasi, the mitzvah avid pagalo avid. If it's one unit, the tkiya trua tkiya is like one unit. So how could it be? Torah says only do a tkiya. That's like doing half a blowing. It must be that each one is considered a separate blowing. Is a tkiya, is a trua, is a tkiya. So the Torah could say do a tkiya only, do a trua only. If you say that it's one unit, according to Yehuda, so then it always would have to be one. You always have to do it together. You never were able to divide it. What's the Yehuda answer to this kasha? It's just a simon to call. It's not. It doesn't have to be an official kind of a blowing. You're right. A real tkiya will be tkiya, true tkiya. There's no such thing as dividing it. But here the pasuk is just telling you a signal of how to call everybody to come. So it doesn't have to be official that it should be a full blast. But they want to say, you're right, it is a simon, it's true, it's just a signal. But the Torah said it's a mitzvah. The Torah wouldn't have made it a mitzvah to say half a blast. So it must be that each blast is considered a separate sound. There's a tkiya, there's a trua, and the Torah could say just to do a tkiya sometimes. So the more I finish the sources of this machlokes, but the holds that a tkiya, trua, tkiya is one unit, and I want to say that it's three separate units. You don't even know what the nafkamina is yet. So that was your kasha before. You can't ask both kashas. You can't ask what's the difference and what's the halacha. So holding now on your first kasha, what's the difference? The Gemara is one line up. Kiman azla adam b'Ravkana. Bottom line, ain bein tkiya le'trua v'lo klum. You're not supposed to separate. You're not supposed to make a hefsek interruption between the tkiya and the trua. That's what it revolves around now. To make a stop, you're going to do a tkiya and then you're going to wait. So he says you're not supposed to wait. Don't wait in between the true and the tkiya. The Gemara says that's only Rabbi Yehuda. Come on, Rabbi Yehuda. Since Rabbi Yehuda holds that the tkiya, true tkiya is one unit, don't make hefsek in between. The contrary one, you can make hefsek. You can do a tkiya and then make a big hefsek or some kind of hefsek and then do a true. Then another hefsek, do a tkiya. According to Rabbi Yehuda, that has to be together. Rashi throws in the bottom line that even according to Rabbi Yehuda, you would be allowed to breathe in between. Here's the Kedei Neshima. The last words in Rashi, it's even according to view that you're not supposed to make an interruption. Rashi says you could breathe in between. The tkiya, trua tkiya, you could breathe in between the tkiya and the trua. Take a breath. Even according to Yehuda. According to Rabbanan, you'd be allowed to do more than that. The bigger hefsek, because they're separate things, separate units. According to Yehuda, it's one unit. So you could breathe in between tkiya and trua and the tkiya, but of course, you're not allowed to breathe in between the tkiya. You're not allowed to breathe in the middle of the tkiya. You can't breathe in the middle of the trua. But between the tkiya and the trua, Rabbi Yehuda says that you're allowed to breathe, but no more. Rabbanan say you can even make a bigger hefsek. That's the machlokes comes out according to Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbanan. According to Rabbanan, you're allowed to make hefsek in between the tkiya and the trua.
He calls it tkiya, and then he calls it trua. So there's a hefsek. There is the way we do
that we're not doing according to Rabbi Yehuda. He's saying according to Rabbi Yehuda, he wouldn't do that. According to Rabbi Yehuda, we'd make tkiya, trua, tkiya, he would go straight. And according to Rabbanan,
like they do in the mornings now.
Rebbe,
yeah.
Rebbe, you said you're allowed to, but as the Meiri, Rashi, and Rabbeinu Tam understand, you need to make that neshima.
I think you're talking about a shvarm and a trua, so we'll get to that soon. So far, we're talking about a tkiya and a trua according to Rabbi Yehuda. We'll get a little bit further. The Gemara continues on the next page. Nun Daled. So I skipped one word on the bottom. The bottom word should be pshita. Maybe I missed that over there. Yeah, the bottom word. The Gemara says pshita. Rav Kana said that you're not supposed to interrupt between the tkiya and the trua. And the Gemara says that's going according to Rabbi Yehuda. According to Rabbanan, you would be allowed to interrupt. The Gemara says pshita, of course. According to only goes according to Rabbi Yehuda. According to Rabbanan, you are allowed to interrupt. So what's the chiddush that the Gemara says that this din of Rav Kana goes according to Rabbi Yehuda? The Gemara says on the top, Ma'od Tema. Let's get it up again. You might think Rav Chana's din that you should not interrupt is even according to Rabbanan that says that it's 3 units. You might think that he also has like the Rabbanan, that it's separate, but even according to Rabbanan, there's what to talk about. Are you allowed to divide the tkiyas very, very, very much? Like Rabbi Yochanan was very extreme. Rabbi Yochanan said, according to Rabbanan, in the morning you could hear a tkiya, and then an hour later you could hear a trua, an hour later a tkiya, you could divide it every hour you do. takes 9 hours in order to do the 9 sounds. So Rabbi Yochanan says you could do that. You can make it tekiah, wait an hour, and that's a big hefsek. And you might think that even according to that Rav Kahana is coming to say against Rabbi Yochanan that according to Rabbanan you can't divide it so much. You could divide it a little bit, but not so much. Taisa brings down this point that the mitzvah. Rabbi Yochanan says the mitzvah there are 9 mitzvahs. No, it's a mitzvah, but you're doing the mitzvah. You're doing it a little bit now, a little bit later. I'll do the mitzvah altogether. So Taisa just brings down, just to notice, Taisa brings down the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah. There is a machlokas about this point. It brings down Rabbi Vo. Rabbi Vo argues on Rabbi Yochanan, and he says that you can't you can't separate in between the blowings more than kedei ligmaras kula. That's he says even according to Rabbanan, shak kedei ligmaras kula chosel l'rosh. Lefukim Rabbi Yochanan. That has you could divide it. Rabbi Yochanan says there's no limit. You could divide it the whole day over Rosh Hashanah as long as you got from the morning till the night. You got the 9th kiyas in order. You did a mitzvah. According to Rabbi Vo, you're not supposed to divide more than it takes to blow all the kiyas. Kedei ligmaras kula. Whatever it takes, the time that it takes to blow the 9 sounds.
30?
9. We'll talk about 9. We'll get to one day. We'll talk about how you get 30. The mitzvah the Raisa says 9, which means tkiya tuat tkiya, tkiya tuat tkiya, tkiya tuat tkiya. And Rashi stuff talks about the fact that we do more is we're not sure what a trua is. Maybe it's what we call a shvarim. Maybe it's what we call the trua. Maybe it's what we call a shvarim trua. That's how you get 30. But that's doing that because it's fakest to get to the Raisa. The Raisa is just 9.
Every day they're not the 30. But they do the 30. They do 9. They do 3.
Okay, that's already been talking about. Oh, you're talking about that's nothing. Okay, so here it says shak they ligmar skula. So this machlokes means the Gemara says that even according to Rabbanan, it's not so simple that you can do it with a big separation. Maybe he's coming to say even according to Rabbanan, don't wait an hour in between. You can wait a little bit, but not kedei ligmar skula. Not enough that it would take to finish all the tkiyas, all the 9 tkiyas. So maybe Rav Kahana does not hold like Rav Yehuda, but Mashmalan. That's why the Gemara had to say no, that Rav Kahana's din is like Rav Yehuda. Rav Kahana's coming to say like Rav Yehuda, don't separate it all. Why is it not a good shot? Maybe he holds like the Rabbanan and he just coming to say you can't wait an hour in between, but you could wait more than just breathing. The Gemara says he says don't wait anything. Nothing at all. So nothing at all doesn't sound like just coming to say don't wait 9, don't wait an hour. It sounds like you don't even wait at all. And that means what Rashi says, according to Yehuda, don't wait at all, except for Kedei Neshima, which means that you are allowed to do Kedei Neshima. The question that was brought up by Rav Manuel, do you have to? Do you only have to? Just to go a little bit halacha l'maisa. We don't pass like Rav Yehuda. As far as the Gemara, tkiya, trua, tkiya, 3 separate units, and you could divide in between, even like Rabbi Yochanan. You could even divide it an hour, and then later on another 1 hour later a trua. We pass like Rabbi Yochanan, not like Rabbi Vo. But the question that comes up in the poskim is a shvarm and a trua, which is not our sugi at all. But there's a Gemara in Rosh Hashanah talks about what is a trua. The pasuk doesn't use the word shvarm. Trua, the pasuk uses the word tkiya and trua, and the mitzvah of the rice is to tkiya, trua, tkiya 3 times, altogether 9, and that's the mitzvah of the rice. But we don't know what a trua is. Is a trua what we call a shvarim? Do, or is it what is it called? We call a trua. Do, right? 9 small sounds, or is it what we call a shvarm trua? Because of that, we do all of the different possibilities. We do tkiya, shvarim, tkiya 3 times. We do tkiya, trua, tkiya 3 times. And we do tkiya, shvarim, trua, tkiya 3 times. That's how we get the number 30. So in the shvarim trua, when we do a shvarim trua, over there is a question, are you allowed to breathe in between? Are you allowed to? Do you have to? You shouldn't. What is the shvarim trua? So it doesn't have to do with our sugya, it more has to do with a sugya of when a person, what the Gemara calls Yevava or Yalala, the way that a person cries or wails, does he do that in one breath or not? So it seems to be another machlokes. I don't think it's related to our sugya. Maybe it is. I don't think it's related to our sugya. And that's it's related to Rosh Hashanah. And that's machlokes. So that's, since it's holding close to Rosh Hashanah, we'll say what the poskim say. The Shulchan Aruch says to do both. Do a little bit like that, do a little bit like that. That in Shul, he would say there's the tkiyas in the beginning before Musaf, then there's the tkiyas during Musaf. So some of them do in Neshima Achas, when the Baltakir does the Shvarim Trua, do it in 1 breath, and others do it after in 2 breaths. The Ramah says that the minhag is to do everything in 2 breaths. That they always do a Shvarim Trua in 2 separate breaths. But the minhag is not like that. I think most people don't do like that because it's a big chiddush to do dafka in 2 breaths. And the poskim say it's better to do everything in 1 breath, if anything, because even according to one who says to do it in 2 breaths, you yose in 1 breath also. The one who says in 1 breath, you're not yose to do it with 2 breaths. So the custom in some places of Ashkenaz, the Mechaber Shulchan Aruch, probably the Sfardim probably do the way it says in the Shulchan Aruch, some and some. I think that people don't do like the Ramah too much. That does dafka shtei neshimas. They'll do also some and some, or everything with neshima achas.
How do you do
In the Chorba, they probably do with neshima achas. They probably do everything in one breath.
The Mishnah Brura, like you said, Rabbi, the Mishnah Brura goes against the Ramah here and pastors like the Shulchan Aruch. And as far as not everyone, actually, the Meiri would not agree with Rabbeinu Tam, but because Rabbeinu Tam holds that you'd also be Yotze with Neshima Achas, therefore the Mishnah Brura uses it as a hakra to say be safe rather than be sorry and don't go like the Ramah.
Okay, so that's if someone's blowing at home, like happens sometimes, you're just blowing for the women or somebody that didn't hear. So then to do with neshima achas, to do the shvam shua with one breath. Okay, next Gemara. Erev Shabbos shebetoch hachag. So the Mishnah said on Sukkot, Sukkot of Erev Shabbos, you'll have 12 extra because it's Sukkot, and this you have of course the Musaf. The Musaf is another 9, and then you have 12 that the Mishnah said is going to be on the top of the gate, the top gate, which is on top of the steps, the 15 steps on the bottom of the steps, and also when you come into the Sha'ar Mayim, when you're coming in after you got the water from the Shiloach, so then by Sha'ar Mayim, what the Mishnah calls Mili Mayim, and then one on Agav Mizbech, which Rashi says means Darava. When you put this kippah, you put the big willow trees on the sides of the mizbeach. Also, you do tkiyah, true tkiyah. That's why she explains the Mishnah. But the Mishnah leaves out on the 10th step. And 2 pages ago, the Mishnah said on the 10th step they also did tkiyah, true tkiyah. And our Mishnah doesn't say it. So how do you reconcile these Mishnayos? The Mishnah before said you do on the 10th step. This Mishnah doesn't hold to that. He said the Gemara says Taka that is a machlokes, and our Mishnah doesn't hold to the previous Mishnah. The Tanya Shalosh Shemal Asiris, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Omer Shalosh Agav Mizbeach. Our Mishnah says Agav Mizbeach, which Rashi says means the Arava. When you put the Arava on the Mizbeach, on the side of the Mizbeach, you do tkiyah, true tkiyah. But this Brisa says that the one who says Mal Asiris is arguing. Our Mishnah he said both of them. One Mishnah said Mal Asiris, one said by the Arava. And this Brisa says that they're arguing on each other. They don't hold of each other. Each one is exclusive. So the Tanakhama says on the 10th step. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov says on the Mizbeach, which Rashi says means the Arava. When you put the Arava on the Mizbeach. And explains Omer Mala Asiris Eino Omer Al Gabi Mizbeach, Omer Al Gabi Mizbeach, Eino Mala Asiris. Each one doesn't hold the other one. One holds after the 10th step and not to do it by a Rava. The other one says by the Rava and not to do it on the 10th step. So even though the Mishnah before did say both of them, this Mishnah when it's coming to say you do 12, Rashi says everybody else you have to have maximum 12. It doesn't tell us where we know it. Gemiri, we have such a Masorah that the extra ones of the Mayim have to only be 12, and therefore one is going to say on the 10th step, one is going to say on for that Rava. My time, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. So in the next couple of lines, the Gemara is a bit, the Gersos are a bit many. There are different Gersos, so they're not so clear. I'll just try to say what some shot. My time with Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, Chivin the Taka Psich Hasharim, Lamala Siris, Lamali the Taka, I love Sharu. So the way it says by us is very difficult. Psich Hasharim is opening the gates in the morning. The Gemara says, if once you did that, why should you do on the 10th step? It's not a gate. So that doesn't fit so well because opening the gates in the morning has nothing to do with anything about the water that we're doing over here. So some would take out the word psichas, and it means the sha'or means the sha'ar elyon, sha'ar tachton, on top of the 15 steps, on bottom of the 15 steps. So no reason to do it also in the middle of the steps. He says we do it only by the sha'orim. So he's going to say that you did, and if anything, you'll do it by the rova al gabi amizbeach odeflei, not in this series. In the series of the water, so they did one on top of the steps by the sha'ar elyon, one on the bottom of the steps by sha'ar tachton, and one also when you came into sha'ar mayim, when you came back with the water. So it wouldn't make sense. It's not. If you have a choice of only doing one more, why do it on the 10th step? Better do it on the mizbeach, which is some other kind of order. Rabbanan and Sabri, Chivin the Taka Lamili Amayim, Al Gabi Mizbeach Lamali. Hilchach Lamala Sirius Adif. So the words are not something in the Girsa they talk about if the Girsa might be different, but the way the Gemara says that I want to do things that I have to do with the Mili Amayim. All these things have to do with the water, the top of the gate, the bottom of the gate, and what else did we say? The Sha'ar Mayim also has to do with coming in with the water. So he doesn't want to make something that has to do with the different subject about Mizbech, the Arava. He'd rather do it also something with the water, and therefore he does it on the 10th step. Rashi says that the 10th step is nothing exact about the 10th step, just wanted to make a komusiyam that they should do something in middle. So he says that the 10th step is better. I'm not saying that it's not so clear from the Gemara. There are other Gersos also different pshatim what Mili Amayim means, whatever. Rashi himself means another pshat what it means like Abiyam Mizbech. But that comes out of Machlokis. The Gemara's finished over here. Machlokis, that how much we do have that these two things don't go together. Otherwise you'd have 15 altogether, and you're only supposed to have 12. So everyone agrees it was a tkiyah, true tkiyah before they start with the rooster crowed on top of the steps, and everyone agrees on the bottom of the steps they went out to the Sha'ar Tachton, Sha'ar Mizrach, or Lelet Kiyah, True Kiyah. But and there's also Sha'ar Mayim. When you went to the Shiloh and you came back, they came into the southern gate, Sha'ar Mayim. Everyone agrees also there was a Kiyah,
So
True
that's the
Kiyah.
9.
And the question was the third set, another is everyone holds this 12 altogether. Was that one on the 10th step and not when you put that robe on the Mizbeach? Or did you do it when you put that robe on the Mizbeach and they didn't do it on the 10th step? So it comes out of
The Torah
Machlokes.
on the Mizbeach, but not everybody held that way.
That's what the Gemara says over
We
here.
don't hold it.
That's, I don't know,
Maybe
I don't know
it's-
what
maybe
we
you say
hold.
we don't do it.
What do we? I don't know.
Basically,
I don't know.
whatever we
So
say,
there's a,
whatever.
so I don't know who we pass on like of these two Mishnayos.
Ah,
Do we do it on
yeah,
the 10th
so
step or do you do it by the Rava? And also, it's not so simple. What Rashi says himself, that we're talking about that Rava, Rashi says it's not so simple. That's his pshat, but there are other pshatim also. So that's the Gemara. The Kasha.
Let's hope we find out very, very soon.
Amen. 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 A new sugya now. And this has to do with Leib Yaakov's question. If you have two Musafin, what if you have on the same day two Musafin? If it has Shabbos and Yontif, or if there'll be Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh, you have the Mishnah said when you have a Musaf, you have another 9th kiyas because there's a Shir Shal Yom. If you have what happens if you have two Musafin? So that's the sugya starts now. New sugya, nothing to do with what we learned till now. When Rav Acha bar Chanina came from the south, I see
Excuse me, Rebbe. Where is the south? I know the west is Eretz Israel. Where would the south be?
The south is also in Eretz Israel. It means he came from the south of Eretz Israel. Probably the Yishuv was in the north, by Tveria area, Esharim over there in the north. That's where the times of the Tanam around. That's where the main Yishuv was. And probably the south means from Yerushalayim and southward. It doesn't say exactly from where. So Rav Chanina came from the south. There's not a place in the Gemara talks about Rav Hussein Shebedorom that the main Yishuv was in the north at that time, and there was a Yishuv also in the south, but not as big as in the north. So he came and he bought a brisa. I see Masisa Biyad, they bought a brisa the following. It says that the Kohanim should blow the chatzos rows. This word yisku is extra. Before that, it says already about blowing. So if it just wants to say the Kohanim should blow, it didn't. Then the trumpets, it could have said the Kohanim are the one to do the chatzos rows. It doesn't have to say yisku. It didn't have to say that word. It says already blow with the trumpets. So now it could have said, as Rashi says, it could have said that the Bnei Aaron are the ones of the trumpets. It doesn't have to say they should blow the trumpets. So that word yisku is an extra word. Why does it say it again for? According to the Musafin, you blow. That's the end of the brisa, which is a little bit vague. So Rav Chanina is going to explain it. Rav Chanina brought the brisa and he also explained it. You do tkiyah through a tkiyah 3 times, means 9 tkiyahs for every musaf. The Mishnah says that if there's a korban musaf, you do an extra tkiyah through a tkiyah. Let's just jump back a second to the previous Amud to see that Mishnah over there that we're going on. The Mishnah says, Musafin. Here it is. Musafin, how you owed Masifin Otesh. I got it there. Okay, part of that. Musafin, how you Masifin Otesh. The Mishnah says when there's a Musaf, there's another 9. The question is if there are 2 Musafin, that's what Agam was going to talk about. So Rav Chanina said, based on this brisa, Shatokan al kol Musaf for Musaf. For every korban Musaf, you do another set of 9. And now the Gemara is going to try to attack him. That's the whole sugya today.
Excuse me, does that mean instead of the top of the maximum being 48, there would be 50?
That's going to be a kasha. So you're asking a kasha that sometimes you'll have more than 48. The Mishnah says this 48 is the maximum. And the
Shabbos and Yom.
Shabbos and Yontif. So Shabbos and
It would be
Yontif.
Shabbos, Yom Tov, Shabbos, Pesach, Sukkot, excuse me.
Yontif is Sukkot. So you just said Yontif and
Yom Tov,
Shabbos.
Sukkot, and Shabbos. So then, and you'd have Nesach Hamayim, so you'd have 57.
How do you
You'd
get
have
57?
Musa 9 for Shabbos and 9 for Sukkot.
9 and 9 is 18.
And they opened the gates. They opened the gates. They had the Talmud and they had the Talmud.
Every day
You
is
had the
20.
21.
Yeah.
You had 21, and then you had another 18.
Yes.
There's no Erev Shabbos. I see. There's no Erev Shabbos.
The Gemara is going to ask all the conscious. You probably started
Okay.
asking all the Gemara. The Gemara is going to ask all the conscious. The whole
Okay.
Gemara today is going to be if this is true, so we're going to get more than 48. That's the kasha.
What's true?
If it's true that every Musaf gets another 9.
Huh.
The Mishnah says a Musaf gets 9. The question is if you have 2 Musafim. 3 Musafin. So do you get 9 per Musaf? So Rabbi Yaakov said, Rabbi Hanina said yes. And then what's going to be attacking him? If that's true, why does the Mishnah say the maximum is 48? So Rabbi Yaakov started asking a kasha. We'll see the Gemara. The Gemara is going to ask the kasha. Tanan, top line. The Mishnah says the maximum is Erev Shabbos during Sukkot, so there you get 48. Then Misa, if he's right, if Rabbi Hanina is right, that every Musaf gets another 9, listen, Shabbos Shabbat Chag. If it's going to be Shabbos of Sukkot, not Erev Shabbos of Sukkot, Shabbos of Sukkot, you'll get 51. How is that 51? Because 21 of every day, and then there are 2 Musafin, Shabbos and Sukkot, so you have 18, and then another 12 of the water ones. That's 21, 18, and 12. It's 51. That's the Mor's kasha. Everybody's happy with the kasha? That he should have Shabbos during Sukkot should be 51. If you're giving a Musaf, the 9th kiyas for each Musaf. The Gemara answers, "I'm Rav Zera l'fi she'ein token the Pesichas Shalom b'Shabbos." Take away 3. It's not 51. It's 48. Why is that? Because he said every day there's 21. That was what opening the gates. But he says on Shabbos when you open the gates you don't blow. Rashi says that the opening the gates is not really just to call people to come. Everybody should realize that it's a signal, but it's not really something to do with the korbanos. So even though we do blow for the Tamidim, for the Musafin, but you're not going to do on Shabbos to open the kiyah of opening the gates. So you said
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I didn't understand how we got the extra 3. How did we get to 51? Which are the extra 3?
21 of every day.
Yeah.
18 of the 2 Musafin. Shabbos and Sukkot is 2 Musafin, so you get 18. And then the 12 of Sukkot for the water on the top of the gate, the bottom of the gate, by coming into the Shar Mayim and by putting that rubber on the Mizbeach, so you got another 12. So you have 21,
That's
18,
40,
and 12.
that's 42. That's 42, and we didn't talk about the
You have 51, 21, 18, and 12.
21, 18, and 12.
12.
I see. 18,
51.
yeah.
51. Yes, Shia?
I was saying, so that would be the max day.
So I was asking, it's more than 48. The Mishnah says the maximum is 48. And no, the maximum is 51. If you're giving each Musaf another 9, so Shabbos Shabbat Chag, you're going to get 51. So Abzera answers, take away 3. Because even though the Mishnah starts off that every day you have 21, because you open up the gates, but that's only on a weekday. But on Shabbos, you don't blow for opening up the gates. So take away 3, so it's not 51, it's back to 48. You don't blow when you open up the gates in the morning on Shabbos. Rashi says because it's not really avoda, it's not for the korbanos, it's just a signal that everyone should know to come. So therefore, it's not Docha Shabbos. Who is this person, Abzera? He's talking about Abzera that doesn't care about his flour. Rashi says when you're grinding something, it's a mashal. When you're grinding, so you have to make sure there shouldn't be any bran inside. Take out the psolas, sift it. So if somebody says something without thinking it out, it's like he didn't sift through his thoughts. So who is this person who doesn't care about his flour, just grinding whatever comes out? As if they say, Reb Zera, what are you saying? First of all, it says every day there was 21, and it says Psichasharim, Tamid. It sounds like it's every day, including Shabbos. They say it's only the weekday. It doesn't fit well into the Mishnah. The Mishnah sounds like it's every day on Shabbos also. But then also, second of all, Inami Kadadin, even if you're right, that's only 48. That doesn't answer the kasha because it's not only 148, there's 2 48s. This Shabbos they should have said, instead of saying the Mishnah does say 48, and let's say this also is 48, but it would have been better to say this example of 48 than the Mishnah's example of 48. We have Shabbos, the Mishnah says Erev Shabbos of Sukkot, and you have 48, and I was saying the Shabbos of Sukkot also has 48. It would have been better to say this example. If the Mishnah wanted to say just one example, they should have picked this example, even though it's not more than 48. But even as a 48, they could have picked a better example. Because why? The Shammai not Tanti. This way we get 2 Chidushim. In the case of Erev Shabbos of Sukkot, that the Mishnah did say you get only 1 Chidush. And here you get 2 Chidushim. What's that? Shammai not Yaakov. First of all, what the Mishnah does say, that by saying listing out the 12 extra ones of Sukkot, over there you see that you don't do on the Mala series. You don't do on the 10th step, which the Mishnah does say. But that you have regardless. If you talk about Erev Shabbos of Sukkot or Shabbos of Sukkot, both ways you'll see that it's not going to say the 12. It's not going to say 15. It's not going to say the one of the 10th step. But also, this way you get a chiddush of Rabbi Chanina. Shammai know the Rabbi Chanina by saying the case of Shabbos, Shabbat Chag is 48. That'll be telling us a chiddush that you do bring for each musaf another 9 kiyas. You have another 9 kiyas per musaf. So it would have been better to say the Mishnah's case, the case of Shabbos Shabbat Chag, than Erev Shabbos Shabbat Chag, even if Rabbi Zera is right. Even if you don't have 51, you only have 48, it still would have been better to have I'm sorry. It would have been better to have this 48 than that 48. It would have been big chedushim. So Rabbi says a simple teres. The Kal Kasha was a mistake. This Kasha of saying that on Shabbos of Sukkot you have 51 because you have the regular 21 plus 18 plus 12. That's a mistake. That's a mistake because on Shabbos you don't do the whole Seder of Chalil. The whole Seder of Simchas Beis Hashem you don't do on Shabbos. So the whole thing is a mistake. These 12 you don't have. You don't have on the top of the steps. You don't have on the bottom of the steps. You don't have on the Shamayim. You don't have the one on the rubble also. So the kasha was a mistake. Take down 12. You don't have 51. Take down. So that kasha is well. The Gemara says more kashas. He's saying
Rashi gives a svara. He says because you filled up the water Erev Shabbos.
It's not a story. It's a fact. It's a fact that you don't do the whole simcha Beis Hashem the same way that it says Acholol, right? Acholol is not Dochel Shabbos. The whole simcha was not done. The Mishnah says that you get it before Shabbos because it's not Dochel Shabbos. Okay. Also the Hachalil, all these things are the music, even though you have the whole. That was the Mishnah that said the Chalil. The Chalil is not Dochel Shabbos, and you're saying. Emmanuel, he's saying better than what I'm saying, that the Chalil is not Dochel Shabbos. Talk about that the water was not Dochel Shabbos. They didn't carry the water. They had to carry the water before, so they didn't have the whole procession of Simchas Beis Hashem on the trumpeting on the top of the steps, bottom of the steps, and bringing the water into the Shabbos. Good.
Does Debatsri means less than less?
Basri is less, right? Yes, Basri too, but many are missing. Many go down.
So how much would it be if it was on Shabbos when we eliminated the process?
51 minus 12.
39.
The Gemara is more cautious. But listening to me, the Rosh Hashanah Shechol Yes Shabbos. How about Rosh Hashanah comes out on Shabbos? You should have more. Why? Rosh Hashanah on Shabbos you're going to have also 48. You're going to have the regular 21 plus 3 Musafin. 3 Musafin on Rosh Hashanah of Shabbos. Why? Because you have Musaf the Rosh Hashanah, Musaf the Rosh Chodesh. Every Rosh Hashanah is Rosh Chodesh, and also Musaf the Shabbos. So you have 27 over there plus the regular 21 is 48. So there's another 48. If it's true, I should have said this case. And my answer is. It's true, it's 48, but I'd rather say in my case of 48, the Mishnah's case of Erev Shabbos of Sukkot, rather than to say Rosh Hashanah. Why? Erev Shabbos Shabbat Chag it's Shechlei Lashmina. It's a Chiddush. Because Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov wants to tell us Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov's Chiddush that you don't do on the 10th step. By talking about Sukkot on Shabbos or Erev Shabbos, you tell us a Chiddush that you don't do on the 10th step. That was the beginning of our whole Sugya. That you don't have this Mishnah holds you don't do Tkiyah Trua Tkiyah on the 10th step. If we're telling you Rosh Hashanah on Shabbos, you wouldn't know this Chiddush. But the Gemara says, is that a reason not to say it? That I say, only say one case, only say about Rosh Hashanah of Shabbos, don't say Sukkot of Erev Shabbos. Listen, say everything. Why not say both cases? If there's another case of 48, it's true, the maximum is 48. But I have 2 examples of the maximum. Why only say one case? Say 2 cases. If it's true that you have, for each Musaf, you have another 9. So on Rosh Hashanah of Shabbos, you can have 48 also. The Gemara says, ton of a shayah. It says some, it doesn't say some, it doesn't have to say everything, it doesn't have to have an exhaustive list. It gives one case of 48, and it's true there are more cases also, but it left out some. But the Gemara has a regular kasha that it always asks, my shayim, the high shayim. What else did it leave over? It means it's only one thing to leave over. It's not mistaber, it's not reasonable to say that the Mishnah had one case to say and it left it out. If it had left out a couple of cases, say take some, leave some, but if it only left out one, that's not usual. So if you can find another case of 48 that the Mishnah left out, then it's a good answer. That it said one example, there are many examples possible. But if you only have one thing that are left out, then it's not a good answer. So the Gemara finds, I find you more 48s that are left out. Shai Erev Pesach. Every Erev Pesach, you have 48. Why is that? Because the Korban Pesach, it says we have more Pesachim that they used to do it in 3 shifts. People will come into the Azara and they will close the doors and then they would do the Korban Pesach, then do a second shift, a third shift, cut 3 kitos, b'shalosh kitos. And each time they did Hallel, and each time they did Hallel, Rashi says they did Kiyah, Trua, Tkiyah in the beginning of Hallel. And they did Hallel 3 times. Each group did Hallel 3 times. Beginning of each Hallel, you did Tkiyah, Trua, Tkiyah. So you can have on the Erev Pesach, regular Pesach, you have 21 of the regular days, plus another 27, because you had 3 groups with 3 Hallels. And each time there was a 3. So each group had 9. The first group had Hallel 3 times. Beginning of each Hallel, they said Tkiyah, Trua, Tkiyah. And they did Hallel 3 times. They got 9. Second group came in again, Hallel 3 times.
There was more people waiting. Weren't able to do the Korban yet.
No, everybody got into the 3 groups. They didn't do more than 3 groups. Everybody was in 3 groups. And even if they had very few people, they divided into 3 groups. So the Gemara's kasha is every Erev Pesach. The Gemara not a kasha. The Gemara is answering that on every Erev Pesach he also had 48. So it's not just kasha anymore. Rav Acha Bachnin is right. Every Musaf This is, by the way, this is regardless of Rabbi Acha Rab Chanina. The fact that Rabbi Acha Rab Chanina said that every Musaf gets a set of 9, that's regardless of Erev Pesach. Erev Pesach, everybody holds that you did Halal 3 times 3 groups, and you had Kiyat before each Halal. So the Gemara's answer is, this is a case of 48, and you're right, Rosh Hashanah of Shabbos also you have 48, but it left it out. The Gemara continues, no, not so simple. Oh, missed that, 1 second. Okay. The Gemara is not happy with this answer. Erev Pesach is not necessarily 48 because not everybody holds it at 48. Not everybody holds that Erev Pesach they had 3 groups times 3. The Hamani of Yehudi, the Amma Meimem shall cut fleeces like Yelama Hafti, Kishma Hashem, they shall Rama Morton. Rabbi over there, Pesachim says that in the third group, they didn't say Hallel more than 1 time. And even the first time, they didn't get only till Hafti. It's a very small group because most of the people came in the first 2 groups. The one over there talks about the third group was called Atzlanim, and they were like a lazy group. They came late. You're supposed to come as early as possible. And it really says that the third group was so small that they didn't get up to Hafti, Kishma Hashem, even the first time around. So they didn't have the second and third rounds. They did have the first kiyas, kiyah 2 kiyah before the first halal, but they didn't have the second and third halal. So according to him, take away 6. So even though you're saying that every year Pesach you had 48, it's not true. According to Rabbi Yehuda, take away 6, you only had 42. So back to the kasha. What else did he leave out? If you're saying that every Musaf deserves 9 kiyas, so Rosh Hashanah, the Keban on Shabbos, will have 48, and it's the only thing that is left out. My Shai, the High Shire. Erev Pesach, that's not called leaving it out because Rabbi Yehuda holds that you didn't have 48, they only had 42. But the Gemara defends itself by saying, Ha'okimna, or whatever the gear says over there, Ha'amrit, the Lord Rabbi Yehuda, Amish is not Rabbi Yehuda. The beginning of the Sugya, they started that, how do you count it kiyah? Kiyah true, kiyah is 1, or is it 3? You count 7 and you count 21 and 48, you count 7 and 16. The Gemara said, Amish doesn't go according to Rabbi Yehuda. So why bring in Rabbi Yehuda over here to say that they didn't have 48 and every year Pesach because they didn't say Halal only 1, the third count didn't say Halal 3 times, only 1 time. Amish is not going according to Rabbi Yehuda. But the Gemara says, I'm not concerned with that. As far as Halal goes, he holds like Rabbi Yehuda that they didn't have Halal the third time, only on the third count they didn't have Halal 3 times, only 1 time. But he does hold like Rabbi Yehuda. He does not hold like Rabbi Yehuda as far as how you count it. You count it as 1 unit or 3 units. So the Gemara is still holding by the kasha that Erev Pesach is not a reason to say there's 48. That's not called leaving it out. Again, the Mishnah says there's 1 case of 48. The Gemara is asking there's 2 cases of 48. Rosh Hashanah came out on Shabbos. The Gemara says there are 3 cases of 48, and you see, it didn't say all of them. But the Gemara is saying no. This case of Erev Pesach doesn't impress me because we don't necessarily have to say that's a 48. It could be only a 42. It's only 1 thing you left out. You wouldn't leave out only 1 thing. My Shai, the High Shai. Why did you leave out? So the fact that the Mishnah doesn't say Rosh Hashanah of Shabbos is also 48 sounds like not every Musaf gets time to keep. The Gemara says no, it's not true. You're wrong. Even according to Rabbi Yehuda, there is another case of 48. That even according to Rabbi Yehuda, that has only 42 on a regular Pesach. But if it comes at Erev Pesach on Erev Shabbos, then you get another 6 because every Erev Shabbos has 6 of the L'Havdil Saman HaMalacha, L'Havdil Min Kodesh L'Chol. So he has 48 also. So the answer to the kasha is it could be Rabbi Acha Chanina is right that every Muslim gets another 9 kiyas. The reason why it doesn't say in the Mishnah because there are many cases that are left out. It left out Rosh Hashanah that came on Shabbos, you have 48. It came left out maybe every Erev Pesach according to Rabbanan or according to Rabbi Yehuda. Erev Pesach comes out in Erev Shabbos, you have a case of 48. So at this point, Rabbi Acha Chanina is still holding up. He's still holding his fort, as they say, and he says every Musaf gets 9 kiyas. And you have a kasha why the Mishnah doesn't say it. There are a couple of cases of 48. There's no case of more than 48, but there are cases of 48, and he didn't say all of them. He only said 1 of them, 1 out of 3 cases. The Gemara continues. This now, the rest of the sugya today is more or less a side issue. We're going to still be in the middle of the sugya still. Is it true? Rabbi Chanina, is it true that every Muslim gets another 9 kiyas? But the more is a side kasha, that's a kasha in everybody, regardless of Rabbi Chanina. And the kasha sometimes is more than 48. The Mishnah says it's never more than 48. Below, is that so? How about if Erev Pesach comes out on Shabbos? Erev Pesach and Shabbos. Now Shabbos only has a Musaf. And Erev Pesach, the Halal, not because of the Musaf. We said there Pesach that you say Hallel, you have three groups, and you have each group says Hallel 3 times. Maybe according to Abuda, the third group only says it 1 time, not 3 times. But according to everybody, it's going to be more than 48. What's the cheshbon over here? The every day has 21 plus 9 of Shabbos plus 27 of Korban Pesach, or at least 21 according to Abuda of Korban Pesach. Is that true? That Korban Pesach according to Abuda has 9, and then another 18, and then the third group only has 1 time Hallel, so it has another 3, so it has 21. But according to everybody, you're gonna have more than 48. That's more than Kasha now. We get Shabbos, Abuda, Chamshin v'Chada, Abonam, Chamshin v'Sheva. According to Abuda, you're gonna have 51 because you have the regular 21 plus 9 of Shabbos plus 21 of the Korban Pesach, and according to Abonam, you have 27 of Korban Pesach. So it comes out together 57. So why does the Mishnah say that the maximum is 48? Till now, the Gemara asks Kashas on the Vachav Reb Chanina about the Musafim. Now the Gemara is asking the Kasha on everybody that on their Pesach comes out on Shabbos, it should be at least 51, maybe even 57. The Gemara answers, Ki katani midi disa b'chol shana, Pesach chol yes b'Shabbos, less b'chol shana b'shana, lo katani. The Mishnah only lists things that come out every year, but this doesn't happen every year. The fact is, the many things the Gemara said so far doesn't happen every year, and many of the Kashas go off maybe. But here the Gemara says the Mishnah only listing things that happen every year. So Erev Shabbos that comes out during Sukkot happens every year. The Gemara is going to talk about that soon. But Erev Pesach to come out on Shabbos doesn't happen every year. It's true. Sometimes you'll have more. It's true. The Gemara is giving it. You're right. Sometimes you'll have 57 even, but it doesn't happen every year. But in a regular year, the maximum you're going to have, or every year, the maximum you're going to have is 48. Some years you'll have even more than 48. The Gemara says, is that true? That the Mishnah is saying things that happen every year? Does Erev Shabbos always come out during Sukkot? Does every Sukkot give you an Erev Shabbos? So you might say superficially, yes, because Sukkot is 7 days. 1 day is going to be Erev Shabbos. But the Gemara says no, because if Erev Shabbos comes out on the first day of Yom Tov, then you're not going to have the 48, because you don't do the whole Nisach HaMayim. You don't the whole all those for the water, what we call the Chalil, the preparation of Simchas Pesach Sheva, they didn't do on the first on Yom Tov, like it says Hachalul Chamisha v'Shisha, that you don't do it on Shabbos. And like you said, Emmanuel said before, you're going to bring the water beforehand. So the Gemara is saying, why do you say that the Mishnah is every year? Does Erev Shabbos always fall out to get 48? Does Erev Shabbos always come out during the Chag? Sometimes it comes out on the first day of Yom Tov. Sometimes it doesn't happen. What's the case? If the first day of Yom Tov comes out on Erev Shabbos, you're not going to get to 48. Take away 12, because the Sha'ar Elyon, Sha'ar Tachton, Sha'ar Mayim, all these things you don't do on the first day of Yom Tov. It comes out on Shabbos. So how come you're saying that our Mishnah is every year? It's not true. Our Mishnah is only sometimes. The Gemara answers, it never happens, because we make sure it doesn't happen. If it comes out Erev Shabbos, it's going to be the first day of Yom Tov. We make alterations, and we make sure that it shouldn't happen. If the Eidim come, the Eidim don't come, we make sure Elul should be an extra month. If we see ahead of time that the way according to the calendar is happening, it's going to come out Erev Shabbos, it's going to be the first day of Sukkot, we don't let it happen. If it comes out the first day of Yom Tov, it's going to be Erev Shabbos, we push it off. How do we push it off? We make that it shouldn't be Rosh Chodesh. We close the Bezdin, Eidim want to knock on the door and they say we saw the moon, we go to sleep, come back tomorrow. And
All the summer, you wouldn't go more than 48? Is that why we're doing it?
no, the Gemara is going to say we don't want it to come out Yom Kippur on Sunday and Friday. The issue is if it comes out Yom Kippur, that's what the Gemara says right away. My time, but the Gemara is going to say that if the first day of Sukkot comes out on Friday, that means that Yom Kippur earlier would have come out on a Sunday. We don't want that, and that according to our calendar, it never comes out. Our calendar is calculated that it shouldn't come out Yom Kippur on Friday or Shabbat or Sunday. And the Gemara says the reason is because we don't want to be 2 days that's Asad and Malacha. Yom Tov and Shabbos next to each other, you're allowed to do Malacha for Chol Nefesh. But on Shabbos and Yom Kippur next to each other would be 48 hours that you're not allowed to do any kind of Malacha. And the Gemara talks about Rashi brings on the Yerakaya, that the Yerakot, that the vegetables wouldn't be able to keep fresh. Nowadays we have refrigeration, but they didn't have refrigeration. So if you're going to have to wait 48 hours that you can't cut the vegetables, it's going to be spoiled. And also Messiah, that if somebody dies, they didn't have any freezers, and therefore also to keep the mace for 48 hours is not covered in mace.
So since they didn't want Yom Kippur falling, they want Shabbos falling.
So when it came out, the beginning of Rosh Chodesh Tishrei, when they saw that according to the calculation, it's going to come out, Yom Kippur is going to fall out on Sunday or Friday, they made Elul to be 1 more day. They didn't accept testimony that they saw the new moon. and it's going to come out one day later, and everything's going to be pushed off a day. So it won't come out Yom Kippur on Sunday. And this is what the Gemara is talking about. The Gemara is really talking about is does it come out the first day of Sukkot on Erev Shabbos. The Gemara is saying if that's what that year that it comes out Erev Shabbos is the first day of Sukkot, that means if you go back a couple of days, Yom Kippur came out on Sunday, and that we don't let it happen. So we're going to make it pushed off one more day, so it's never going to happen. It doesn't come out that the first day of Sukkot is Erev Shabbos, and it's true according to our calendar, it doesn't happen. So that's the Gemara's answer. That doesn't happen. So therefore, every year you have Erev Shabbos Shabbatot Chag. What the Mishnah says is a 48. What's the 48? Erev Shabbos Shabbatot Chag. It happens every year because your kasha was sometimes it doesn't happen. If it comes out,
I asked these days, is that
it doesn't happen. No, the calendar
November first day, which is the Shabbos?
Erev Shabbos.
Okay.
The first day of Sukkot is never going to be Erev Shabbos. And go back. It means to say that Yom Kippur never comes out on a Sunday. If Yom Kippur is a Sunday, so then you have 4 days in between. That's going to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday is going to be the first day of Yom Tov. It doesn't happen. Yom Kippur never comes out on Sunday or Friday. The cloud of the calendar is that Yom Kippur doesn't come out on a Friday and a Sunday, and the Shana Rabbah doesn't come out on a Shabbos. Okay, the Gemara continues.
But it'll come out on a Monday, and every Chutzlar, it's still have Yom Tov, like 3 days. Yeah.
That's okay.
It's a Shabbos.
That's okay. The more is concerned with Yom Kippur and Shabbos being next to each other.
What did you say about Hoshana Rabbah?
Hoshana Rabbah also doesn't come out on Shabbos.
On Shabbos.
Hoshana Rabbah doesn't come out on Shabbos. That was the Gemara a couple of pages earlier that Hoshana Rabbah doesn't come out on Shabbos. The Gemara talked about if it would come out, would we do a Rabbah? The Maisa, our calendar is organized that it doesn't come out. Hoshana Rabbah, I think the whole calendar about many things are based on this yesod that Yom Kippur should not be on Friday or Sunday, and the Hoshana Rabbah should not be on Shabbos.
Why are you mentioning Shana Rabbah? You said Erev Yom Tov.
I just doing something on the side. Our Gemara is talking about Yom Kippur, that it shouldn't be on Friday or Sunday, especially Sunday is our Gemara. I just mentioned the other things also that come into the calculation.
But it also
that are Shana
includes
Rabbah.
the Erev Pesach.
No, there's no considerations. Things might happen, but not because of Pesach. It happens. Everything goes back to the other calculations. Lo do Pesach, lo do Rosh. All of those simanim are true, but the source, what's it based on? I think it has to do with other things. Okay, the Gemara continues. Where did the Gemara say it? My time, top line, my timer. If it comes out the first day of Yom Tov of Sukkot, it's going to be on Erev Shabbos. That means Yom Kippur came out on a Sunday. We don't let that happen. We push it off. Actually, the Gemara doesn't say why. Rashi says the reason is because of vegetables and because of people that might have died, that might die and have 2 days in a row that you're not going to be able to take care of it. The Gemara says, and Gemara is cautious now that I'll show you places where it says that Yom Kippur does come out on a Sunday. Do we push off Elul, Tishrei, in order to be a day later that it shouldn't come out Yom Kippur on Sunday? But there is such a case. Here it talks about that Shabbos was Erev Yom Kippur. So it talks about such a case that Erev Shabbos, the Chalavim, the Karbanos of Shabbos, that had the fast of those Karbanos of Shabbos, are you allowed to bring it on Yom Kippur? Whatever Allah is over there, but it says a case that Shabbos is Erev Yom Kippur, and you're saying it doesn't happen. We don't let it happen. And another kasha that the Gemara says, similar kasha, when we were by the Yeshiva of Rabban Bavel, we used to say, there's a Mishnah of Brisa that says, if your Kippur comes out on Erev Shabbos, they did Tkiyah, means that every Erev Shabbos you do Tkiyah in order to announce Shabbos is coming. Like we said, Sheish Tkiyas, Shabbos Shlaf to Saman HaMalacha, Shabbos Shlaf Min Kodesh L'chol. So it says when your Kippur comes on Erev Shabbos, you're going from your Kippur to Shabbos, it's not considered going higher to Shabbos, but Yom Kippur is also the same as Malacha. So they didn't blow on Yom Kippur going into Shabbos. And also if it came out on Motzei Shabbos, so they didn't do Avdallah between Shabbos and Yom Kippur because it's not going down. It's not negated to us right now, the halachas about Kiyah and Avdallah. It's just the case. The case says that Yom Kippur comes out sometimes on Erev Shabbos, sometimes it comes out on Motzei Shabbos. You're telling me that is not true. That's what the Gemara wants from this whole halacha. That you're telling me it never comes out Yom Kippur on Friday or Sunday. Yeah, we have cases that it does talk about such a case. Whatever the halacha is. Anyway, that's just to finish off the Gemara says, we used to say that this Brisa that says Yom Kippur came out on Erev Shabbos, you don't blow the Tkiyas of Erev Shabbos, and if it comes on Motzei Shabbos, you don't do Avdallah, we used to think that it goes to everybody. Everybody agrees to that. But Kislikas Lasam, when I came up to Eretz Yisrael, Ashkachti Rav Yehuda Berei Rav Shimon Pazi, the Yosef Bekamar, Rabbi Kiva. He said, not everybody agrees. That only goes according to Rabbi Akiva, which is not our subject at all. Our subject is thus the case. The case that it comes out in Kippur on Friday or Sunday, it does happen. You're telling me it doesn't happen, and that's why it never comes out the first day of Yom Tov should be Erev Shabbos. It's not true. The Gemara says, "Lo kasha." It is a machlokes. It's
Where's the Bryce end of Motzei Shabbos?
that's under the Bryce. And then Reb Zera said, we used to say Divya Koli. In Bavel, we used to say that it's going to everybody. When I went to Israel, I found every Reb Shimon Paz. He says it's only going to Rabbi Akiva. And Rashi here will tell you what the background is. If Yom Kippur is bigger than Shabbos, Shabbos is bigger than Yom Kippur, are they equal? So that's the sugi over there. Not our sugi, but anyway, there is such a case of Yom Kippur being on Erev Shabbos and on Sunday. That's against what you're saying. Lo kasha, it's a machlokes. Hacherim are the ones who say that it does come out, because Hacherim say you don't make any maneuvers. You just leave the calendar as it is. Every year is 354 days, and from year to year you can know that it's every day is going to be 4 days later. Like it says here, Achem Omrim, Ein Ben Aseres Lo Shashan, a little bit smaller. Ein Ben, first point line, Ein Ben Aseres Lo Aseres, Ein Ben Rosh Hashanah Lo Rosh Hashanah, Ela Vo Yom Muvad. Whatever the Shavuos came out, if Shavuos came out on 1 year on a Sunday, let's say, so then you can know that next year's Shavuos is going to be 4 days later. If Rosh Hashanah came out on a certain day, next Rosh Hashanah is going to be 4 days later. Why is that? Because he says that you keep a standard 354 days, and therefore 350 divides into 7 equally, and you have another 4 days. So from year to year, it's only 4 days difference, no jokes, no manipulating. So he holds that it can come out on Friday, comes out on a Sunday. It doesn't hold all of these considerations, not to make him Kippur on Friday or Sunday. That's true. That's what Rabbi said before that said that it does come out sometimes in Kippur on Friday and Sunday. That's Acherim. But we didn't hold like that. The Im Ha'is Shanamu Beres Chamisha. This is still Acherim talking that if you have a leap year, so then Adar, so then you have 29 days instead of 28 days, which is equal 29 days, and therefore it'll be an extra day. So it'll be 5 days from year to year. But he holds you don't make any manipulations, and therefore it could come out in Kippur on Friday and Sunday, but we don't hold like that. We hold that to make all the kinds of considerations, and we manipulate the calendar, and therefore we're going to make sure it doesn't come out to be Yom Kippur on Friday and Sunday, and therefore we're not going to have the first day of Sukkot being Erev Shabbos, and therefore, back to what we started, that's to get a zoom out a second, the whole Sukkot is talking about, does it happen every single year that Erev Shabbos comes out during Sukkot and you have 48 Tkiyas? Yes, because it's not going to happen that the first day of Sukkot is going to be on a Shabbos. That's the end of the sugya. So it's not the end of the sugya. We didn't finish the sugya. It goes on till tomorrow, another amud. But for today, that's over. And just to summarize what we learned today, the first sugya was when you counted tkiyah, you counted as 1 unit or 3 different units. When you count here that the minimum every day was 21, the reader will say 7 because he counts 21 as being 7 because tkiyah is 1. And we pass on to Rabbana that they consider separate units. The Gemara says not community would be if you're allowed to separate, interrupt between the tkiyah and the trua, or the trua and the tkiyah could interrupt a little bit. According to Rabbi Yehuda, only kedei neshima, just to breathe. According to Rabbanan, more. How much more? Machlokes of Bavon and Rabbi Yochanan. We pass like Rabbi Yochanan that you could even do Pesha Shos B'yom. We could make a tkiyah, wait an hour and a half, whatever, and then do a trua. That's halacha because they're considered separate units, and not considered one unit. Not considered one unit. The next Gemara points out that our Mishnah is, even though we had one Mishnah said that you do tkiyah through a tkiyah when they put up the rava, and as the Mishnah says, you do tkiyah through a tkiyah when they on the 10th step, but they're arguing on each other. You don't have both of them. If you have both of them, you'd have 15 altogether, extra for sukkahs, and we don't. We only have 12. And our Mishnah holds that you do it by the rava, and you don't do it for the 10th step. So it comes out of machlokes. I don't know if we pass on. The next halacha is the middle of the whole sugya. The statement that Bacha Ber Chanina said from Rabbaisa that every Musaf gets another 9 tkiyas, and we're working on that. The kasha was that if that's so how come the Mishnah says the maximum is 48? Maybe you'll have 51, 57, 51. The Gemara's kasha was, and the Gemara answered all the kashas so far, and some kashas were that Shabbos of the Chag will be 51. The Gemara said, no, take away 12 because you don't do the mime over there. So it's only 39. The Gemara, the Kasha about Rosh Hashanah that came out on Shabbos had 48 also. So the Gemara says it's true. You have other 48s, but we're not going to mention all of them. You just took one out of many. The Gemara wants to know, tell me many. Tell me more than Rosh Hashanah that came out on Shabbos. And the Gemara says, also Erev Pesach, according to Rabbanan will be 48. And according to Rabbi Yehuda will be 48 when it comes out Erev Pesach on Erev Shabbos. The Gemara is the Kasha, according to everybody, you have a case of 51 and 57. Because when it comes out Shabbos, Erev Pesach comes out on Shabbos, so you have a quarter of 157, and according to Rabbi Yehuda, at least 51. So it's always going to be nothing, regardless of Rabbi Chanina, you have more than 48. And the answer is, you're right. There are some times that it's more than 48, but it doesn't always happen. The Mishnah is only taking a case which always happens. And the most kasha was, does it always happen? Does it always happen that Erev Shabbos comes out during Sukkot? Sometimes the first day is Erev Shabbos, and then you don't have the 48. The Gemara says no. According to what we paskin, we're not going to make it happen. We're going to make that it shouldn't happen. If it looks like it's going to be Erev Pesach on Erev Shabbos on the first day of Sukkot, we make sure that it's not going to happen, because if that's going to happen, then it would have also been Yom Kippur on the Sunday, and we don't let that happen. And that's halacha. We don't let it happen. This sugya will be continuous till tomorrow. Does every Muslim get another set of keys?
Rebbe,
Yes, please.
I had a shayla that came from Rabbi Rosner's shir. I really don't understand how it relates to this sugya. I thought I'd ask you, and if it's not nogea, you'll tell me no. But he says that from this sugya comes out a major machlokes in halacha that starts with Rabbi Akiva Eger, Keneged, the Or Sameach, which actually the Gra's on the side of the Or Sameach. The machlokes is when you have two events on the same day, and that could even be Yom Kippur and Shabbos, but he starts with the event of Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh. Then is the chiyuv nekshav that you have to be mekayim in tefillah and brachos, as if you have to be mekayim both of them. That's Rabbi Akiva Eger and Rav Moshe Feinstein. Or is it keilu din achos of Shabbos hyphen Rosh Chodesh, or whatever the other thing is, and then and it wouldn't be kol echad b'nifrad, and that's the Or Sameach and Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach and also the Gra. So do you know how that relates to this sugya?
No, but I don't understand the case even. I don't understand what the question is. If it's one or two, I don't know what it means. I don't understand.
It's how you treat in tefillah, the chiyuv tefillah and brachos like Birchas Hamazon. It's how you treat the day when you have two events at one time, like Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh or Shabbos and Yom Kippur. One nafkamina that was given would be a person who has to eat on Yom Kippur. And what does he bench? And another nafkamina that was given was, what if it's Shabbos and I think Yom Kippur, and you have to make, would you have a chiyuv, not Shabbos, probably Rosh Chodesh, would you have a chiyuv of Kiddush for Shabbos? And they disagree.
I don't see how it relates to the sugya. No, I don't see how it.
Okay, Seder, I'll try and listen more and see if he brings it up again. Yesh
Okay.
HaKoyach.
Thank you. Everybody. Well, we can a minute or so.